I hasten to cite an example which itself poses a catch-22 situation. If we police the resources and delivery systems, ladies and gentlemen, we are advertently increasing the cost of water, which invariably impacts affordability and a consequent potential for civil unrest and downturn in socioeconomic development. On the other hand, if we fail to protect water resources and distribution systems, we run the risk of operating the door to non-state actors to wreak considerable damage to our resources and distribution systems, again impacting our socioeconomic development. This is really talk about damned if you do and damned if you don't. As you can see, the problems we face are complex and require carefully crafted solutions that facilitate national development, yet protect the public, the resource, and the delivery systems. But do we wring our hands and do nothing? No, ladies and gentlemen. We tell ourselves, yes, we can and we will. For us in the Caribbean, the discussion of water and security has to start with a discussion of whether water should be treated as a public good or tradable commodity. We recognize water as being a public good and require that all members of society have universal access to clean drinking water supply, as prescribed in the UN Millennium Development Goal number 7 to ensure environmental sustainability. However, it begs the question, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, does recognizing water as a public good translate into access to unlimited amounts of water? In recognizing water as a public good, governments in the Caribbean generally subsidize the cost of water to the residential user. However, governments are also cognizant of the economic value and the need to conserve the resource. As a result, a careful balance is reached whereby a specific amount of resources made available to residential subscribers at a low subsidized tariff. Beyond this rate, subscribers pay a much higher tariff. This careful balance mitigates poverty and potential social unrest, while at the same time protecting the resource. For us in the Caribbean, water security and national security are intricately linked. It follows, therefore, that any insecurity and uncertainty within the water sector is a catalyst for social instability. This is particularly the case when we note that several Caribbean states, in keeping with the UN definition, are currently labeled as water scarce, meaning that they experience a grave challenge in distributing water to meet the demands of households, farms, industry, and the environment. The issue of water resources in the Caribbean region involves many of the same problems that face developing countries in general, including inadequate management frameworks and resources, both human and financial. However, other issues unique to small island developing states, notably their highly constrained freshwater resource base and the patterns of development on limited habitable land, pose particular challenges for fresh water resource management and ultimately national and regional security. While fresh water is a priority issue, albeit with different priority weights, the limited access to fresh water creates health hazards. Many officials on the Latin American and Caribbean region indicate that a region that is rich in renewable water resources, with more than 30% of the world's total in most Caribbean islands, rainfall is still the sole source of fresh water, with several islands depending on the use of desalination water. This is particularly the case for low-lying coral-based islands, where groundwater supplies are limited and are protected only by thin, permeable soil. Even where rainfall is abundant, access to clean water has often been restricted due to lack of adequate storage facilities and effective delivery mechanisms. The challenge is further compounded by degradation of upland watersheds, pollution from waste, and chemical runoff from agriculture. These are the major factors determining the failure and the future quantity and quality of available potable water. The rapid growth of tourism, as I indicated before, which is estimated to account for 40% of the region's gross domestic product, is also impacting water resources in most islands. Water consumption in the tourism industry is reported to be 5 and as high as 10 times higher than other residential areas and uses. And growing populations are placing huge demand on the island's water. And I must hasten to point out that ensuring access to fresh water will become increasingly challenging for Caribbean countries as global temperatures and sea levels continue to rise. The Environmental Panel on Climate Change reports that water resources will be affected negatively as models predict that the region's annual precipitation could decrease by about 5% during the period to 2050 and about 7% by 2080. The need to strengthen institutional capacity in an effort to mitigate the threats of water security cannot be overemphasized. The requirements for managing water resources are linked to the size of a country, but more so to the capacity of its human, intellectual, and organizational resources. Consequently, a similar set of expertise is required to manage water resources effectively for small island developing states with limited financial resources and competing demands. It has proved for the necessary institutional capacity. Added to that, ladies and gentlemen, is the outward migration of intellectual capital produced in the region. This has been a cause of concern for some time. An example, about 50% of the nurses migrate after being trained in the Caribbean, and in some cases in Guyana, and up to 80% of those with tertiary education migrate to the metropolis to the benefit of other countries